Hi everyone, welcome back and thank you for being here. If you're new, welcome to my channel. I hope you'll find these tutorials helpful for you. Also, just letting you know that this is part 2 of how to paint this misty lake with a bird. If you haven't seen part 1, I'd encourage you guys to watch that first because that is where I added all this right here. This part, we're gonna finalize the painting. And if you'd like to see the full video right away, it is available in my Patreon. There will be a link to it down below in the description if you'd like to join. Not only you'll be getting your full lessons right away, you will also get reference photos and the opportunity to vote on which topic I should teach on next. But most importantly, you are helping me create these tutorials for free here on YouTube for those that can't afford classes. So thank you guys for your support and thank you to my patrons. With that being said, let's go straight to work. I am going to be using the same materials as I did in part 1. Okay, I'll be mixing colors from this part going down. So I'm going to keep the top part as it is. And once I finish detailing this bottom part, and the bird, we'll see if I need to adjust or correct. We can always come back to any parts later, but that is the plan. So I'll mix colors for our mist and fog here, and then our little patches of grass, right? We're gonna make it darker and stand out a little more, use our detail brush to create a little bit more details. And here are the first 3 colors. We'll be adding more, but let's start there. About half a thumb or almost a thumb amount of white here, and then here as well, and then half a thumb amount of white here, and then I added cobalt blue right there a little bit, and then cobalt blue here, crimson red, and a touch of lamp black, and then viridian and more lamp black here. So I'll mix these and show you what I get. As I was mixing, it was a little too light, so I added more cobalt blue, and I'm going to take part of viridian from this one, very small amount, just to give it a little bit more of a warmer green shade, right? Like a bluish green. I don't want it to be too blue because I want to keep it kind of a hint of blue here going into the pinks here, right? So let's continue mixing. All right, here are the colors so far. And now I added 2 more darker ones. So a little bit of white, okay, like a quarter amount right there, and then more of burnt sienna, and then viridian and lamp black, and then here lamp black, more of that, and then burnt sienna. And finally we're going to add lamp black and crimson red. I'm going to take part of this color, just a small amount, and mix it in with this one for fun. All right, so we're going to kind of add a little bit more of a lighter fog right here and work on some of the grass. I'm gonna take my brushes out of the water, set them down on the paper towel, and I'm gonna start with my number 8. Here are the colors again, so you guys can see. So with my number 8 brush, right, my brush became nice and soft, has a little bit of water in there, and it's perfect for blending now. So let's start with the lightest color. A little bit of water in there and paint. We're gonna work transparently because there's water in here. So we still are gonna see some of the background showing through, but it's gonna give a lighter look. We wanna create more of a lighter look. So I'm gonna tap it on the paper towel so I won't have too much water. More paint, less water, so it won't look. And it's okay if you go over your bird. We're going to be working on that again. And I want to create this fog, this mist, fade it out. Even if you go up a little bit higher, that's okay. And then use the corner of your brush and kind of blend it out. Press a little bit if you need to. And work your way outwards. We're kind of changing things around a little bit. Adding a little bit of a brighter highlight. I'm going to go up a little bit with this fog, cover the background a bit. So this first layer will be looking a little bit on the rough side, but that's okay. I want this to be a little more on the blue side, lighter color. Mist, fog, right? You can go up even higher. You'll look better. I like that lighter glow right there. Just makes it more interesting looking. And once it dries, usually with acrylics, it'll darken a little bit. So it's gonna blend in with the background. So this first layer is gonna still look a little bit rough, but it will make a difference. So let's continue. I'm gonna use a little more of this color because I feel like I want to lighten it up here in the background. I want to make it a little lighter fog. Maybe bring it up a bit. Swirling and moving the paint around. Okay, and now that I'm not gonna add too much in here because I want this first layer to dry before applying my next layers, right? So what I'm gonna do is let this dry, and while this is drying, I'm going to work right here. So I'm gonna use a little bit of this color, mix it in with the blue. Okay, mix it in with this color. Maybe get it in between, so we will have a smoother transition from one color to the next. Okay, now I'm gonna add this color again, mix it with this one, get it in between those two colors, right? Play with them, and let's add some misty looking bushes first. It's a little too light. Let's go a little darker. That's much better. Maybe you can barely see it. Right? Maybe you could even add a little bit of a darker. I'm going to use this darkest color, mix it in with this one, get it a little darker, not too much, just a little bit. And then we're going to go over a little bit like this. You can kind of play with the direction where you want it to fall, move the grass, and let it fade out. Okay? So here, I'm gonna use this color again, and I'm gonna try to add that reflection a little bit to the ground, not too much, or to the water, but make this a little darker because we added that. See, not adding too much. All right. So now now the background is dry, I'm gonna clean my brush completely and dab it on the paper towel, take most of the paint, water out, right? And we're gonna repeat the process one more time with this lightest blue, a little bit of paint, not too much. A little bit of this color, and let's start right in here. I want to make it brighter, and use the corner of your brush and move the paint around wherever you feel like it should go, your fog. But I do want it more right here, so it can glow. And it's okay if you go over your sketch. And I'm going to go up a little bit in here. mix it in with the background. And bring it up as high as you want it. Totally up to you. Okay, and I'm gonna bring this lighter color in here as well. I want to lighten up, give it some fog in here. So continue with this paint, and I'm gonna also go up in here. Again, don't worry about covering, painting over your bird. And I'm gonna just press a little harder. So I'm gonna dab my brush in the water, tap it on the paper towel, and then you see how the paint is moving around where I added? I'm just playing, dragging the paint with water wherever I feel like it would look best. But I do want to make this a little lighter. That's why I'm doing this. These are little details that will make a big difference. Okay, it'll make it stand out a lot better. Our bird is going to stand out once we go into adding details in the second layer to it. I'm going to make it darker and sharper, and it's really going to pop against the background. That's what I'm thinking about. So our focus is on that bird. And you can carry that fog into the forest and pick it up if you'd like. I'm gonna add a little more of that blue in here. And repeat the process again as the final layer right here. This mist, this fog, it's really gonna come together. And drag it down, blend it out to that background, to the pink, right? So I'm gonna, when your brush feels like it's drying out, dab it in the water, tap it on a paper towel so you won't have too much of it, and continue with a little bit of paint. And let it fade. Like I said, you can move the fog wherever you feel like it would look best. Okay, and then as we go down, we're going to do the same thing with a little bit of blue and this pinkish color, and we're going to mix those colors together so we get a smoother transition between color to color. And drag it out. Okay, you see how that pops now? All right, let's continue with adding some of the reflections here. So with my number 8 brush, right, we're going to add a little bit of this. Let's have this pink and this grayish color again, mix those colors. Let's see what that gives us here. So it's a little on the light side, that's okay. Let's start adding a little bit of this brownish color. And maybe in pink. Let's mix those together, see what that gives us. Okay, that's a little better. We don't want it to be too strong. But we do want to make it look softer. So now I'm gonna go over some of my reflections. And we're gonna obviously add more grass. So I'm getting a rough layer in first. So I'm gonna let it go all the way. Continue on with this color. I know it's a little bit rough looking, but you'll see it's going to come together. Okay, for now that's good. Okay, we could use a little bit of this pink, a little bit more. Let's take away the sharpness of some of these right here. Make sure I make it look a little softer. So a little bit more of the pink by itself. And I still have that color, well, now it's getting too light. So back to the darker color. And dab my brush in water actually and tap it on the paper towel. Let's use a little more pink, very small amount. You could see I'm barely pressing. A little more of this color. Let's use a little bit of this gray color. And let's use the darkest color here. This one, mix it with the gray. I want some of this not to only be all kind of brownish color. I want some of them to be on the gray side. Like this. That's much better. And you'll see it's gonna come together nicely. I want this to be faded looking. And now I'm going to dab my brush in water, tap it on the paper towel. Now I'm going to use this color next, this one. Let's see what that looks like. This is our line right here. And on the bottom, I'm going to drag it down a bit. So use a little more of this color and repeat the process. Okay, a little more. Trying to blend it in with that gray color that we just added. Okay, it's still looking rough, that's okay. Dab my brush lightly in the water. And now I'm gonna add some darker shadows inside here. For example, right here. I'm gonna go in and darken it a little bit so it can stand out a little more. And I'm not painting everything, I'm kind of skipping some spots. Making certain areas a little bit less. and having fun with adding dark shadows, right? So a little more of that darker color. And make this a little bit darker here and higher. Now I'm going to use this color and add another layer, a thicker layer now. With less water. See how that works? That made it, you know, some of these stand out more. Okay, so I'm gonna use a little bit more of this color. Maybe a touch of the darkest. I don't want this to be the darkest. I want this one to the left to be darker than this one, because this one's still further back, right? So it's not gonna be as dark. The things that are closer to us will be more intense in color, okay? Always keep that in mind. Once you keep some of these rules in mind, painting is fun. It's not that hard, it's a lot of fun. And also, you know, you're also practicing with each piece, so I'm still learning so much. You know, when you know the basics, right? You know the basics, it makes it easier to work, but you're also learning so much. It's endless. And it's a lot of fun. Make this a little darker in here. Let's add some of the dark color in here. Move it sideways a little bit so it won't look perfect. Right? Starting to add a little bit of details to our lake. Skip some areas, add a little bit in here. And I'll stop right there. I don't want to add too much. But just a little bit will make a difference. Alright, we can come back to this part later. Let's move on. So I did add titanium white, and we're going to use our 1/2 inch flat brush, dab it in the water all the way, tap it on the paper towel, and with a little bit of white, we're going to start to make this image come to life a little bit. Let's use a little bit of this gray color so it won't be too strong. Mix it in with the white. Okay, let's add a little more white and water. So you could see the flat brush is nice and sharp, right? So that's what we want, and we're going to start to add some little reflections and brighter highlights to our lake. For example, we're going to have one straight line right in here. and barely pressing. You could use your finger as well for this part, where we're creating little ripples that are further away. See how that works? We don't want to add too much. Just a little bit of a highlight will make a big difference, okay? All right, that's good. Maybe pick this one up a little bit more. I want to create a straight line like this. And you can let it fade out. There's going to be, details of grass. Again, we're going to go over that. All right. So now I'm going to continue adding a little more in here. Barely pressing. Okay, and dab my brush in the water lightly and repeat the process. A little bit of that gray and white. Okay, randomly. We're going to add some brighter little ripples in here. So this is where the land meets. So in here, as I go in, I'm going to make it a little darker, more on the gray side, less white. Okay. And I'm going to continue getting that sketch. So I'm going to actually let's use a little bit of this color. This one with the gray. No white. Let's see how that looks first. Okay. That's much better. We want to make it look a little faded. So here they're going to be a little longer because it's closer to us, right? Okay. And you can fade it out like that. But you start to see how our lake stands out just by adding that, right? Makes a big difference. And we're still gonna add details to our grass here. I'm just having fun going back and forth, switching between painting sections, So I'm gonna use a little more of that gray and a little bit of this color. You see how a little bit of that darker color is going in here? That's actually pretty good. Maybe even add some darker ones in here. Not too much, just a few of those. And I'm doing this carefully, you know, but you could do it a lot faster if you'd like, right? There's no right way of doing it. You can spend even more time, you know, if you wanted to. Okay, let's add a little bit more of this color and this one. Mix those randomly together. And I'm gonna add some darker ones in here for fun. Okay, maybe in here, follow right where we added the lighter parts. I'm going to dab my brush lightly in water and use a little bit of pink, okay, and whatever color I already have in there, because I'm going in to the pink areas here. I want to keep it soft on this side. I don't want to add too much detail, but a little bit will help my painting look more realistic, because the key is trying to find smooth transition between colors to colors with blending, but also with how you add your ripples, right? And you don't want to add harsh, you know, transitions and it's like a bright color and then super dark color, right? You want to create that gradual transition, and that will really make your painting look pleasing to the eye. I'm going to add another long one right in here, connect it. Okay, use a little bit more of this color so it won't be so bright. And gray. And go in here. So spend some time. You don't want to overdo it, but create a little more details here. Okay, a little bit more of that grayish color, and we're just going back and forth, making it look a little bit more rough, not straight down, right, our reflection, a little more wavy. Barely pressing here next to the light. I don't want to add a lot. I want to fade it out. So now I'm gonna add a few lighter ones to make some of them pop. Since we're working on the reflection, let's just continue and add a quick layer of that here, cover this part, and then we'll go back to the grass. And if we need to, we'll, go back and forth and work on the water again, right? But let's continue this here, and I did add a little bit more color. So yellow ochre here by itself, and then some white, yellow ochre, and burnt sienna. So I'm gonna mix that together, okay, and see how it looks. Okay, that's good. Right there, that's good enough. We'll play with that color as well. So now I'm going to use my number 8 brush to cover the big sections, big shadows. For example, what we have here, I'm gonna go over by adding, let's start with this color here, right? This one. And we're just gonna go over first, add where our land is going to be. So this is where the land is. And it's gonna disappear. Okay, so let's add our reflections again, go over. We are gonna probably go over the bird again with darker reflections, make it smoother looking, but let's just see what we get playing with these colors here. So I'm kind of going sideways and down, pulling the paint down and moving it sideways as well. Okay, I'm gonna make this pretty dark in here. Inside. This is going to be pretty dark. Continue on with just that color first. We're going to bring this down, reflecting. Probably up to here. Okay, and now remember this color. Let's start with this yellow ochre by itself. Give it a little bit of color, reflecting into the water from the grass. So a little bit of that. Down my brush lightly in the water. Let's use a little bit more, maybe a little bit of a lighter color now. Let's go darker. Let's go darker. bring that in here a little bit because I want some of this to be reflecting. So I'm going to use a little bit of this gray actually, so I won't have too much color in here. But I do want that kind of rough layer added in here. I'm going to skip some areas. Continue with that grayish color again. And I'm going over the bird shadow. Okay, continue with that gray color again. A little bit of this gray and maybe yellow ochre, just a touch. And we're going to go in here. Make this a little darker. Make little reflections in the water, random ones. Let's go a little darker, so let's use a little bit of this gray and the darkest color. Let's just make it a little bit of a darker gray. Okay, and go in here. I want to make some of this pop a little bit. And now I'm going to dip my brush in water, tap it on the paper towel. I'm going to continue with this color again, go back to this one. And let's just start to add. This is going to be all pretty dark in here, so let me keep it all simple and bring it down with this color first. Kind of blend it in with the background, create a smoother fade, but we want to keep it dark. So as I go in here, I'm gonna add that layer, make this area dark. That's good enough. Okay, and now I'm going to use even a darker color. Remember I told you that this is the closest ones towards us. So for example, the darkest color right here, remember this bush right here? We're gonna have a darker bush. Randomly add your little grass details. It's a hint darker, okay? We don't want it to be Just random lines go back and forth, make this area pretty dark. And we are going to bring this dark shadow to the lake here as well, like this, right? On some parts. Okay, continue with that dark color. Let's make this area dark in here. Let it fade. Okay, I'm going to darken also this bush behind. And just go over everything, right? All the way up to here. Okay. I'm going to go back to this color again and get some of this, my bird shadow, a little more cleaner look. So it won't look random. And as it goes up, so now I'm going to go over one more time. Let's use this color a little bit with yellow ochre. Mix those two, and I'm going to go over, glaze it, make it a little softer and brighter. Okay, and you'll see once we start to add our grass, we're going to be adding some highlights. It all makes sense why I'm adding more warmer tones on this side. We could even lighten it a little bit. And blend it out. Let's switch over to our flat brush, and we'll come back with, adding more detail later. But since we're here, let's finalize adding the ripples. So I'm going to use a little bit of this. Let's use this color we have mixed and the gray. Okay, let's get it in between, something like that. And we're gonna start to add our ripples here. I'm gonna try to make it a little bit more darker, so more gray. Okay, that's better. Okay, a little bit more. Let's add yellow ochre a little bit so it could be warmer looking. And let's continue adding a little bit more. Let's skip some areas. In here, create some gaps here. Okay, let's use a little bit of gray, yellow ochre, mix those together so it looks a little bit warm. I'm going to add a few in here. So that our lake can look more interesting. I'm going to go over with a little bit of gray, yellow ochre. Let's add a little bit of a lighter color in here because I want some of this to not be all just dark, right? I want some of the lighter highlights coming through. So maybe use a little more white. Okay, that's much better. You could see we have darker ones, lighter ones, right, when we go into the darker zone. And you can add as many as you wish. Add a few darker ones. Maybe this one, a little bit of this color and the gray. Let's add a few darker ones. In here, maybe a couple little ones in here. I'm going to use a little bit of a darker color for my shadows, some of my darker shadows in here. Maybe a little bit more darker. I'm going to add a little bit of a darker color in here. I'm trying to look at the reflection, make sure it's reflecting my shadow of my bird properly. So I'm going to make it a little bit more darker in here. right? It's a lot of back and forth, but it'll be worth it. Some darker shadows in here, why not? Barely pressing. Use a little bit of water if you need to. Okay, I'm going to use a little bit of this color now, and gray. Mix those randomly together, and start to add a little more details inside here. A little more of this color and gray. And let's make it a little lighter, so let's go just gray by itself. I'm going to use a little bit of a yellow ochre, mix it with the gray so it won't look too cold. That's much better. Let's go over some of these parts. I want to add brighter highlights. Okay, like this, and then you can go in a little bit more, follow the pattern. And you could always repaint something if you didn't like, right? But really there's not big mistakes here you can make. And here's what we got so far. Remember, we can always come back to any of these parts later. I want to make this a little more on the warmer side so it can glow from the light. So I'm going to make this a little warmer. By doing that, I'm going to pick up my M2 blending brush, dab it all the way in the water, squeeze the water out, okay? And then I'm going to use yellow ochre as the brightest color, so a little bit of that paint, not too much. We don't want to overdo it. Okay, we're going to make sure we don't have too much water as well. But with a little bit of this paint, okay, something like this, all right, we're going to go over and glaze it in here quickly. with water and some paint. Glaze it all over here. You can kind of go up, and it's okay if you go over your details. Okay, you see how that works? It creates a nice glow. Okay, you can bring it down and even bring it in here a little bit, not too much. And then let it fade. But mainly here. See how that works? We created a nice glow, warmer glow. Let's bring some in here. And that's good enough. It's a little detail, but it makes a big difference. And finally, we can add details to our grass. So let's start with our flat brush first. And we can play with either flat brush and our detail brush, whatever you feel comfortable. But for now, for bigger ones, I'm gonna quickly do this. It's faster. So I'm gonna use this darker color and this one. Mix those in between with water. Okay, something like this. All right. Here we're gonna add some tall, first couple tall ones. Okay, so maybe one is coming up all the way up to here. Okay, so I'm gonna actually just use this color. I don't want it to be too dark. Okay, let it fade. Continue. So now I'm gonna quickly switch to the detail brush because I can get finer lines. So same idea. Let's just use this color with a little bit of water and some paint. I'm gonna swirl it, and because we have water, it's gonna run smooth, right? So we don't have too much paint. So basically, I'm gonna be barely pressing, creating some of these. And it's awkward because I'm recording. I usually get up close, but the camera's on the side, so my hand is a little bit awkward, so bear with me. But I'm gonna start to add a few of these taller ones, almost falling, barely pressing. Okay. And they can go different directions. Some are falling here, right? We don't want it to all be going straight up. Some of them will go to the side and are falling. Okay, it's very important that we do this to our grass because it's random. It's not only going straight up. Maybe even some of them are going this way. A few, right? Okay, we don't want to add too much, but something like this makes a big difference here. I'm gonna add a few in here. Okay, and then also I'm gonna clean my brush. I'm gonna use this gray color, whatever color we have left, this grayish color, and this one maybe. Try to get a in-between color, and remember this, further one away, I'm gonna add a few taller ones. Okay, barely showing through, so a little more gray, so it won't stand out too much. All right, so now I'm gonna use, remember this color we mixed? Let's use a little bit of this color. Okay, maybe mix it in with more of yellow ochre, so it could be brighter in color, something like this. And we're gonna add some lighter highlights. Okay, for example, I didn't like that. Barely pressing. Going over some of these, right? I'm gonna add some bright ones. Maybe light is showing through, for example, right here. Just on some of them. Basically, you get the idea, right? Go over and add as much as you want. Okay, a little bit in here. Add a few more brighter ones. On top here. Repeating the process. adding a bunch of highlights. Okay. And now I'm going to use my number 4 brush and just the yellow ochre. And let's add a little bit of Viridian. Yellow ochre, straight out of the tube. Okay. And burnt sienna. Let's play with those colors. And we're going to start to glaze a little bit. So right there, very small amount with my number 4 brush. We're going to start with, let's start with the green first and a little bit of yellow ochre, so it could be brighter green, like this. I'm going to glaze on some of these parts because I want some green color showing through. I don't want it to be all. That's much better right there. Just a little bit of green, warm color makes a big difference. I want to still keep it on the orange side, so I don't want to add too much, but that's right there. A little bit of green makes a big difference, okay? So next I'm going to use burnt sienna by itself, okay? And let's glaze some color over what we added here. We're adding a bunch of colors now because the light is creating this nice effect to our grass here. So going over a little bit. Okay, not everywhere. Mainly on this side. And now I'm going to clean my brush. I'm going to glaze just the yellow ochre by itself to create a very warm color with water. Okay, I'm lightly glazing it. I'm not adding too much of this. Mainly on top, because that's where the light is hitting most. And bring it down. See how that works? That gave the grass more, it made it more alive, right? Because we added the glazes of color, it just makes it stand out a lot more. So now, to make it even stand out more, I'm going to use this darkest color we have mixed, okay, to create some shadows, dark shadows. So by itself, this darkest color, I'm going to go in, for example, right here, right? I'm going to go over some of these and create a little bit of dark details inside some of my grass so that it can pop a little bit more. I don't want to add too much, but just a little bit to create a little more depth. Okay. All right, that's good. Enough. Right there. try to reflect some of the darker spots again in our water. Go over with your darkest color real quick and kind of glaze it where the darkest shadows are. To create a little more detail to our reflection. And so now I'm going to go over again with my detail brush as the final detail to this side of the grass. I'm going to use a little bit of this lighter highlight mixed with yellow ochre a little bit more, and gently go over some of these again, barely pressing. And you can repeat doing the same thing with your dark color, darkest shadow, and add your finer little grass details as the final step here. For example, I'm going to use this color, right? And go over where you want it to overlap, you know. Have a little more grass effect detail. And you can also add a little bit of detail, for example, right here to these tops, if you wanted to. So they won't just look like it's just straight line up. Maybe that something's growing in the ends of these. Right? Have fun with this. And then one of the final details I did with a detail brush real quick and the dark color, darkest, I kind of went over looking at some of these and randomly adding a few reflections on some of these right here. Not everywhere, just a few, as you could see, randomly. That makes it a little more, detailed. Okay, and now let's work on this side. So I'm starting fresh because I ran out of paint, and we're gonna add a little bit of more vibrant colors anyway to this one. So white straight out of the tube, and then we have half a thumb amount of white, and then yellow ochre, and then we have a little bit less white, viridian, and a touch of yellow ochre, and then smaller amount of white, and then burnt sienna, touch of lamp black and orange, and then more lamp black here, crimson red, and a little bit of burnt sienna. All right, let's pick up our number 8 brush, and here are the colors we have mixed, something like this, and you'll be good to go. Let's start with the darkest color, okay? And we're gonna glaze it and pick it up a little bit, kind of like what we did to this grass, right? I'm gonna start to add a little more color, a little bit higher. Barely pressing. Okay. And we're going to bring that out up until here. Okay, for now that's good. Let's now clean our brush, and we're going to add the next layer, which is this one right here. Okay, with a little bit of water and this paint, we're going to do the same thing. Quickly go over right where we left off to create like a transition color. You can see it's faded. I want to add a little bit here. Okay, continue. Maybe bring some of it down so it won't look perfect. Okay, and then add some in here. Okay, that's good enough. We're going to work on this bush later, but let's work on this biggest one. So I'm going to clean my brush again, doing the same thing. And now I'm going to actually switch to my flat brush because I'm going to be adding lighter highlights. Okay, so let's pick up our flat brush, dab it in the water. Let's use this color and this brightest color. Get a in between color here, like this randomly. And with water and our flat brush, we're gonna go over some of these. These are gonna be a little thicker because they're closer to us. Okay. A little bit in here, maybe skip some areas. Right here, I'm gonna skip this part and add highlights in here. Lighter highlights. Real quick. Okay, I'm gonna clean my brush and actually add some darker ones. I forgot about going over with my flat brush and the darkest color. Let's go over and add some darker ones. For example, right here. I'm gonna bring is up. Randomly move them around. If you don't like something, you can always repaint it. That was a little too thick of a line, but that's okay. I'm gonna repaint it easily. Okay, and work your way down. We're gonna have to go with our detail brush in here for the smaller parts, but we're getting the bigger ones first before going in with our detail brush. Okay, so for now, that's good. The next step is to glaze color like we did here. So what I'm gonna do is add burnt sienna straight out of the tube. I'm gonna add orange and yellow ochre straight out of the tube like we did here. We're gonna bring some color out. So I'm gonna pick up my number 8 brush, start off with the, and actually let's add some green as well, why not? So let's add Viridian. A small touch, why not? Let's start with the green color first. Viridian with a little bit of water, and we're gonna glaze this color on some of the parts, for example, right here. Gonna add a little bit more green to our not everywhere, only a few spots. Okay, to make it look colorful. Mainly on this side, to the left. Okay, so that's good enough for now. Now I'm going to add burnt sienna, small amount, and go over some of the parts here with this color, making them look a little more glowing, more on the red side. Okay, skip some areas. See how that looks? Just by adding that makes a big difference. Adding a little more color. And we're gonna go over with the bird as well, make it stand out. It's gonna really come together nicely in a little bit. Okay, that's good enough with burnt sienna. Clean your brush. Let's add some orange. Let's add some orange to brighten it. Huh? How about that? To brighten some of these right in here, because this is going to be closer to us. So I'm going on top now. Going a little bit on top, adding some orange on some of them. Especially here. Okay, that's good enough. All right, and now I'm going to clean my brush, and finally with yellow ochre by itself and water, I'm going to glaze this color as the final thing I do to create different transitions of colors. And go over the top. Okay, small detail, but it makes a difference. And go back to Viridian, add some more green in here, why not? Okay. All right, so now we're gonna pick up our detail brush, start to really focus on the finer details. And I'm not gonna show you the whole thing, I'll just show you a few details, and then it's the same thing back and forth like we did here, okay? And you can add as many as you wish. So let's start with the darkest color first, and our detail brush. And remember, we're gonna go over and add some of these, maybe they have these little details, and then follow through, right? Connect them. We are now connecting and trying to add a little bit more cleaner details. And you could add as many as you wish, okay? So with the dark, and a little bit of water. Right, get the idea. And then some of them can be going in like this, right? You want to create some separations. And then I'm gonna make some of them fall right in here, next to the bird. Right, different directions, you don't want it to all look the same. See how that works? Adding these fine details really start to makes your grass stand out a little more, and it brings the painting nicely together. Make some of them fall. Dab my brush in the water. And here, I don't want to use just a dark color. I want to actually mix it with this color a little bit to take away in the darkest, right? To take away, because I don't want it to all look dark. I want mainly the dark ones here. But by the light, I want it to make it a little lighter. Okay? Because make some of them curved like this. And then try to reflect that a little bit. Doesn't have to be perfect, but a little bit will be good enough. Okay, so I'm going to continue with the darkest one and finish off right here. Now I'm going to use black with my number 8 by itself and create even darker shadows on some of these parts, on the bottom mainly, with just the black. Not everywhere, but I want to keep some of these dark, even darker than the first layer. Okay, skip some areas, add some dark shadows in here, some separations. Not everywhere. Alright, so I'm going to add a little bit of yellow ochre to half of this paint. I want to make it a little more brighter in this color real quick. It's a small amount. And with our detail brush, let's add some highlights. Okay, with this color and mainly on top because the light is hitting right here. I don't want to add too much on the bottom. Let's see what happens. Let's go. Let's add some in here. Kind of go over your tall grass, create the highlight. Okay, a little more. Going over some of your darker ones, right? And let it fade. We don't want to go all the way down. Mainly want it on top here. Make some of them fall, right? Longer ones. With a little bit of water, make these fall. Some light shining through and hitting some of these little ones here. Okay, so continue adding your highlights. And finally, we're gonna work on this grass up here. It's gonna be more on the green side, so I added Viridian and Lamp Black straight out of the tube. And we're gonna start with dabbing our brush, flat brush, in water. And let's start with a little bit of this tan mixed with the Viridian. I don't want it to be too green, more neutral green, okay? Like this. So this color right here with the green. Okay, first we're gonna quickly sketch out our grass next. Piece of grass right here. So I'm gonna bring it up as high as you want to. And you can move it around, right? Okay, dab my brush lightly in the water. Continue using that green color. And I'm gonna kind of carry it out here. You can barely see it. Okay, so a little bit of that tan and Viridian, mix those two, and getting the first layers in. To save time with the flat brush, and then we're going to go over with the detail brush. Okay, that's good enough right there. Okay, next I'm going to clean my brush. I'm going to use, remember this light green we mixed? Let's use that with a little bit of, let's use yellow ochre, a little bit. I want it to be a little warmer. Okay, like this, with a touch of water. And we're going to add some lighter ones. Okay, that's a little too light. That's okay. I'm going to clean that out by using the paper towel, dab it in the water, and just kind of wipe it gently. Okay. And it's okay if there's still a little bit showing. That's totally fine. So since this was a little too light, I'm going to mix it with Viridian a little more and yellow ochre, like this. Let's give it a little bit more darker tone. That's a little better. Still light, but that's okay. So only on some parts here. Okay, continue on. Add a few on this side. Not too much. All right, so I'm going to set my flat brush down and do the same thing basically with the detail brush. Go over, and this time I'm going to play with a little bit of green, and let's use more green and this tan color, more of the tan. I'm going to play with this color and make them look a little bit more cleaner, for example here, and longer. You could even have some of them drop like this. You see how that works? A little bit of water in that paint, and then you could drop them. And spend time adding your highlights in your dark shadows. And then once you're done, obviously with the black, we're gonna go over, add the darker shadows, right? Basically same technique. And then we will play with a little bit of this lighter color and yellow ochre. Okay, touch of that, and then maybe a little bit of green, not too much. I still want it to be more on the brighter yellow color so that I can connect. So it won't just be green patch here. I want to create, remember, that smooth transition, right? So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pick some of these up higher and create that smooth transition between color to color. Okay, so you can blend into this green. Pick some of these up higher. I'm going to pick this one up higher. And some of these. And of course this area's looking a little flat, like more, we want to have some come towards us. So for example, I'm going to have some of them fall like this down. You see how that works? With a lighter color, green, have some of them fall different directions so that it'll look like it's more of a 3D look to them. Remember, if you don't like something, you could easily just continue painting over, adjusting, for example, with your number 8 or number 4 brushes. Use your dark colors, whatever you have left. Let's use the black. And then go over and add your dark shadows, right? And paint over whatever you don't like. And adjust it and correct it the way you like it. Basically, it's the same technique like we did to the other grass. And right here, you see I spent some time a little bit reflecting it randomly, going down. All right, I'm not gonna go all the way in here. I'm gonna maybe add a little bit in here, but not too much of the lines. I'm gonna keep it more dark and faded like that. And here's how it looks so far. Let's finalize this painting by adding details to our bird. That's the final thing we're gonna do. From there, we can take a step back and see if we wanna adjust or correct or add more details to whatever parts you want. So now let's mix colors for our bird. So here are the colors. I added white straight out of the tube a little bit, and then a little bit of white here, more cobalt blue, viridian, and then less white here. Then you got burnt sienna, crimson red, and a little bit of lamb black, and then lamb black by itself for the darkest color. I did add one more color. I want a darker shade, so I added cobalt blue and crimson red. I'm going to take part of the black, just a little bit, not much, very small amount, mix it in with this one. Maybe take part of this lighter color. I want to create a little bit of a transition. Keep it still on the blue side, but keep it like a darker gray, transitioning a little bit to the warmer colors, right? So this is good right there. It's like a grayish purple almost looking color. So now I'm going to mix this last one, and we're going to keep the white and black as they are. I'm going to play with those. And with these colors, we're going to finalize the bird. Let's see what this color gives us actually. I'm mixing it, and it's looking okay, but I feel like I can make it a little darker. So what I'm going to do is mix this real quick. And I'm gonna actually use more burnt sienna straight out of the tube. And I'm gonna take part of this color and a little bit of black, not too much, just a little bit. Okay, very, very small amount. I wanna keep it on a darker side. Also like we did here, right? We want to create one more color that is a little darker. So I like that, but I feel like I need to add a little more black to it. So it could be, it won't be as sharp, as bright in color. I want a hint of that burnt sienna. There you go, that's much better. I also did add one more color. I know I keep adding, but I forgot to add the brightest highlights to our bird around the edges of our bird where the light is hitting. That's gonna be the brightest colors. So I added yellow ochre by itself just in case we need to use it, and then a little bit of white and some yellow ochre here. So I'm gonna mix that, and from there we'll be ready to paint. All right, here are the colors again. And let's pick up our number 4 brush, dab it in the water, tap it on the paper towel. I always let my brushes sit in the water for a few minutes so they can become nice and soft. All right, so now I'm gonna quickly add the bigger sections, cover the bigger sections with a little bit of another darker color. Let's start with the neck part. Let's use this color first, and let's just go right in the middle and give it some color. Okay, you can bring it down a bit. A glaze like this, and we can use this color next. And we're going to add some darker little color in here, a little bit of that color in here. Mix it in to the neck right here so it could transition. Okay, so dab my brush in the water lightly and a little bit of this color, and we want to transition out to, let's use this lightest color right here on the corner. I want to make it a little lighter here. I'm going to create a softer transition from color to color. Okay. I'm going to dab my brush in the water, and I'm also going to actually, and tap it on the paper towel. I'm going to use this yellow ochre to give it some more warmer tones because of the light. And with this color, I'm going to add it right here. Glaze it lightly with water and paint, and go over this part. It's going to give it a nice warm transition. Okay. I'm going to dab my brush slightly in the water. I'm going to actually use a little bit of this and the black, the darkest color. I want to keep it a little bit more on the darker side. Right on some of the parts right in here, for example. I'm going to actually add even more darker color, black by itself, and glaze it right in here. Barely pressing. Okay, that's good enough for now. We'll let that dry. And I'm gonna continue in here. So I'm gonna add my darkest color, so just the black. I cleaned my brush, and I'm gonna use just lamp black and go in and add the darkest shadows. And this is where the bird is gonna start to pop a little more. And I'm gonna glaze it gently on the bottom here. A little bit in here. And the darkest spots in here. Okay, for now that's good. I'm gonna switch to the detail brush to get the little sections. I'm gonna continue with lamp black by itself and water, a little bit of water and paint. And we're gonna darken this part here. This is gonna be very dark. So I'm gonna go over. Go around the eye. and it's just gonna fade. Okay, now I'm gonna work on the beak a little bit, so I'm gonna use a little bit of this, and let's just use this brownish color and black, mix those together. Start right here and try to keep it as straight as you can. Barely pressing, and as you go up it's going to get a little lighter, so I'm going to just use this color. Clean my brush real quick, and I dab my brush in the water and quickly wipe it on a paper towel to switch colors if I need to. And now I'm going to paint the beak, make it as sharp as I want it to look. Okay, that's good enough right there. Okay, now I'm going to use a little bit of this color by itself now. And on the bottom here, I'm going to add a shadow. I'm going to dab my brush slightly in the water so that it can run smooth, pick up a little more of this color, swirl it, and I'm barely pressing on the canvas. Okay, clean my brush. Let's use black by itself now. And around the eye. Add these little fine details. Connect from color to color. And then clean my brush, and then now I'm going to use a little bit of, let's use a little bit of this color, lightest color, with some water, barely pressing. I'm going to add a little highlight. Okay. Barely pressing. I'm going to create a space in here. And then use this brightest highlight. Okay, and we're going to add details on top. Let it fade out. So a little bit more. We don't want to make it too high, but that's good right there. and let it fade. And we could even add a brighter highlight with just the white, right? You can go right on the edge right here because that's where the light is hitting the most. And add some bright highlights right in here, not everywhere. Around the eye a little bit, and then dab my brush lightly in the water. Let's use this color with a little bit of water and maybe this color. Let's mix those colors together, get it in between to create some bright highlights, but not too bright around this area here. Start to detail our bird a little more. Okay. I'm going to use yellow ochre, add a little more color. I want it to stand out a little more. Right in here, that's much better. A little bit of that color in here. Okay, I'm gonna paint a little bit, use a little bit of this color and yellow ochre. I'm gonna kind of create a little bit of a, make this a little darker in here. I don't want it to, I want to kind of create a softer transition like this. Use this brightest highlight, clean my detail brush, and start to add a little bit of a better curve to my neck. Start to really make it stand out. I want that nice curve to my neck. And then we could use white like we did on top, right? Brightest color right on the edge here. We're gonna add the brightest highlights on a few spots so it can stand out a little more. Okay. I'm going to use a little bit of this color right here with some black. Add a little bit of a darker shadow on top and here. Bring some hair down. Okay, use a little bit of black by itself with water, and we're gonna add a little bit of a dark hair. Dark shadows, like this. Barely pressing. Add the dark shadows right here on the leg, and then fade it out. We don't want to add too much, just on the bottom mainly. Okay, clean my brush, and now we can play with the lightest blue color. Swirl your brush, and we're going to create some color to our bird, brighter highlights, and start adding feathers and hair, for example, right here, barely pressing. Okay, now one thing I don't like is I'm gonna go over the neck. It's a little too thick for me. Not a fan of that, so I'm gonna use white, a little bit of this color, blue and white. And let's just go around the edge, right in here. Make it a little skinnier. I feel like that would look much better. So a little bit of white with some water and this blue color. And do your best to match it to the background. Okay. use a little bit more blue, less white. Trying to take away a little bit of the neck part right here and correct this part. So I'm using more water and kind of blend it out so it looks more natural. It won't look like we did. We added just that line. I'm gonna create a smooth blend out with water. Even maybe on this side you can add some. And then for the legs we can add a little bit of this color with black, mix it in, and go over. Make them a little darker, but not too dark. And just let them fade. And now let's add highlights. So we didn't finish the highlights. So I'm gonna clean completely my detail brush and add this brightest color with water and paint. And we're gonna continue that right in here. See where we left off? I'm gonna continue adding the highlights so that it'll pop better and make our bird more glowing. You can even add highlights to the leg right here, right? Add a little more. It's a lot of back and forth, but we want to create that glow on the chest. So a little more of this paint. And a thicker paint here because I feel like it needs to cover more. I want it to glow and then fade out. And then with that color, we're going to add a little bit of that bright highlight in here. And here a little bit. Okay, I'm going to clean my brush, detail brush, and then use the lightest color white with just the white by itself and a little bit of water. I'm going to add some longer hair and brighter highlights. So I'm going to dab my brush lightly in the water, swirl with the detail brush, and really try to create small little hair going down like this. Okay, make some of these even brighter with white and longer. And here it is. I'll be done for today. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Remember, the best way to support my channel is by joining my Patreon. You're not only getting commercial-free lessons right away, you're getting reference photos. You also get to choose on which topic I should teach on next. But mainly, you're helping me create these videos here on YouTube for free for those that can't afford classes. If you'd like to join, there will be a link down below in the description for more details. Thank you to all my patrons. You guys help me keep these videos coming. Also, be sure to like and subscribe and stay tuned for more. Take care and God bless.